we are starting this webinar series. Like we are starting every 2 week with a new legend of. I'll just give a brief intro about him. So, sir did not just study nuclear science; he actually lived it. Like for 40 years, he worked inside BARC, India's most important nuclear research institution. He worked with some of the greatest Indian legends like Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. There are just only physics students in the nuclear science, but that's not the case. There are like all the field students there. So I won't take much of the time. And in this webinar, we'll talk about the career opportunities in nuclear science, about the skills required, about job opportunities.
Or the nuclear life I live, so that I share with you some of its glorious moments as well as its sustained energy it gives me and how we move ahead into nuclear India, which is in the large crucible of me. You must remember one thing, the N word, the nuclear word, is probably the most misunderstood one. There has been fear in public mind about nuclear. Yes, memory is studied with facts. In the case of cancer treatment alone, radiation therapy, radiopharmaceuticals, we have given 250 to 500 million life years sequestered from radiation. Therefore, nuclear power is not desirable or essential, it is vital. And it is an Anil Kakodkar always quotes nuclear energy.
So, hi everyone, I am Ritika and I work with SciAstra team. Earlier, I completed my master's in biotech from IIT Indore. Then I worked at IIT Jodhpur and currently I'm working at SciAstra. So I'm glad to see the response of this webinar. It was really great to see the response of this webinar. It was really great. So welcome to this session. And one more thing, we are starting this webinar series. We will be doing this webinar in every 2 week with a new legend, of course. So earlier we did a webinar with Professor Arun Kumar Pati, who is a well-known personality in quantum technology. So we conducted a webinar with him. And in case you guys missed the webinar, so the recording is on SciAstra College YouTube. So you guys can go and check. And we will be bringing more such people for the webinar series. So first of all, welcome, sir. Welcome to this session. And it is a pleasure to host you here. Earlier, we met during SciAstra Divas, and it was great meeting you, of course. And now we are hosting this session. First of all, I guess, although Dr. A.P. Jayaraman do not need an introduction, but still, I'll just give a brief intro about him. So, sir did not just study nuclear science, he actually lived it. Like for 40 years, he worked inside BARC, India's most important nuclear research institution. He worked with some of the greatest Indian legends like Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. He was not watching India's nuclear journey from the outside, he was a part of it. And after retiring from BARC as head of media relations, most people would slow down, but he did not. He went right back to what he loves most, talking to students. And over 70,000 hours of lectures later, he is still going. He has won several awards, written several books, and built science communication societies. And now he is here for you guys. So you can ask your questions in the comment section. And about the webinar today, so about this webinar, like you all know the topic of this webinar, nuclear careers. Now, nuclear science is not a widely known career path among the students. Like they know about nuclear science, but how do you actually build a career in this field? Like the nuclear sector in India is moving fast right now. And honestly, most students don't realize how wide the opportunity actually is, or how seriously institutions take their selection process, especially the interviews. There are several institutes where you can study nuclear sciences, right? And there is one myth among the students. I guess Sir will sort it out at the end of the session. So people think that there are just only physics students in the nuclear science, but that's not the case. There are like all the field students there. Okay. So I won't take much of the time. And in this webinar, we'll talk about the career opportunities in nuclear science, about the skills required, about job opportunities, whether in government sector, private sector. So we'll talk about all these things. And now with it, and along with it, we have Sagar also with us. I guess most people know Sagar already. So Sagar is pursuing his BSMS from IISER Bharampur. He has almost completed his BSMS from there. He completed his thesis from GSI Germany. Welcome, Sagar, and welcome, sir, to this webinar.
Good evening, all nuclear friendly, beautiful minds. We are now trying to take a close look at the nuclear careers where science meets India's national purpose. Now, from a small subject, atomic science, the smallest of all things is the atom, and still smaller than the atom is the nucleus. And that nucleus is opening up large employment opportunities and career opportunities and making life a self-fulfilling mission. That's we are at a historic point in technology and science sector of ours. So I'm very happy to share thoughts or the nuclear life I lived so that I share with you some of its glorious moments as well as its sustained energy it gives me and how we move ahead into nuclear India, which is in the large crucible of mid. Nuclear careers in India, yes. I'm not going to give you a standard stereotyped expression of what careers are in the conventional sense, but a narrative of my story would definitely give the inputs you need. How do we get the nuclear field in this country and elsewhere in the globe? We can have direct entry as scientists or nuclear engineers. We can also start as sci-tech professionals in another broad band of the nuclear spectrum. All that I want to remember here is that nuclear N is not a profession or a job. It is a historic function. It is being a participant to and a witness to the nation building. That's the difference between a profession, a job, and the mission you have in your life. You must remember one thing. The N word, the nuclear word, is probably the most misunderstood one. There has been fear in public mind about nuclear. Yes, memory is studded with facts about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the tragedy that overtook history. There, we lost. In fact, we can do a back of the envelope calculation and find out what was the damage it has done to humanity and the society. Some simple calculations show that about 6 to 10 million life years were lost. Life years. Life years means when suppose somebody dies at the age of 20 in that Hiroshima incident and could have lived up to 80 years, we have lost 60 years of productive life of that person. That is engineering computation we have attempted and we have calculated that. That shows us the worst case scenario of 10 million life years lost. Compare this and contrast with, in very grudging scales, what is the life extension which radiation has given to humanity. In the case of cancer treatment alone, radiation therapy, radiopharmaceuticals, we have given 250 to 500 million life years sequestered from radiation. So that is the tragedy of radiation which is lingering in our mind, and it is the ecstasy which radiation has given to humanity. Choice is very clear. There is absolutely no need to be worried about this. So radiophobia, fear of radiation, is now well established and converted into, absolutely transmitted into radiophilia, love of radiation. We must love radiation. But still, in the public mind, there is a little fear lingering. You would have all seen that we go for MRIs, magnetic resonance imaging. You know, the public relations people advise us that nuclear magnetic resonance may be changed to simple magnetic resonance so that the adjective nuclear is not attached to MRI. So we call it the MRI, but actually it is nuclear magnetic resonance imaging. That's part of the story. That's how we entered the mind of society by dropping that. But today is absolutely welcome, and we are looking for careers and building a nation. Nation building. Energy is the central critical variable for our human development. No energy, nothing can be done. In fact, Dr. Homi Bhabha stated very clearly, no power is costlier than no power. No matter whatever you spend on power, that is essential because it is only the kilowatt hours that help to increase our human development index as well as our standard of living as well as our quality of life. That's the role nuclear energy is playing today. So my journey, I entered the nuclear field when I was 22. I joined the training school of the Baba Atomic Research Center. It was then called Atomic Energy Establishment Trombay. That was in 1964. I was delighted to join, not only curiosity, but it was a big opening for career at that point of time in the early 60s. So that was one of the routes of entry into the atomic energy sector. So spending 40 years there are two ways of spending 40 years. Doing something deep and absolutely deep, going deeper and deeper into that. 40 years spending on one subject, or you change your subject. Every 5 years, you change your domain. And then you get 8 different careers. So I chose that multiple careers and spent about 5 years in every domain. So I have about 8 domains with which I have intense familiarity. So all the people in every domain. So you build a large career for you by interacting with a larger number of people by working in different domains. When we try to enter the nuclear field, we must understand there is a strong, well-connected network of nuclear professionals. 500,000 to 700,000 nuclear personnel are in this on the back of this clock. This number is not very clear, nor no nation will tell you what is the exact number, because many of them are involved in strategic defense operations, and therefore this is only a guesstimate at best, but this is the lowest figure you have. By the same standard, applying the same logic, we will get 20,000, 30,000 people in our country also. But this number will now increase exponentially. There is going to be a large multiplication factor into the people who work gloriously into the nuclear era. The reason for that, I'll explain to you in a short while later. Look at the nuclear market. Today, in science and technology, everything is seen from the lens of market growth and CAGR. In the nuclear field, right on today, it is a medicine which is dominating. That is the front runner. And in medicine, we have therapeutics growing at 20% CAGR. We have radiopharmaceuticals coming at 10% CAGR, but nuclear power and nuclear energy is keeping a steady state of 3 across the globe. This is resistant in most countries to 10%, and we are also rising to that global standard very shortly. The metaphorically, and in the journalist language, they use the expression Indian nuclear renaissance. Renaissance is a complete new age. It's a nuclear new age which is coming. Why is it coming? It's coming because strategically we need it, and we need it on a scale far higher than we normally are familiar with multiplication. And for sustainability, science demands it, and for zero carbon to the environment we need. At the moment, we have 23 reactors providing about 7.5 gigawatts, and 20 are in the pipeline. All of them are under the leadership, under the banner of one reactor class and category called pressurized heavy water reactor. That's the front runner. That's a flag for us right now. Energy security, the need for providing an irreducible minimum of energy to our people. We have democratic dividends. It's all the more necessary that we should provide it to the younger generation at a higher life cycle. And the carbon dioxide, having such an impetus in our economy, it's necessary for us to bring it to the celebrated zero, which we call net zero. Beyond that, to have a strong sustainable growth, as a growth factor, as a growth engine for an industrial revolution, we need sustained base load, very clean, powerful base load, which can be provided only by nuclear power. Therefore, nuclear power is not desirable or essential, it is vital. And it is an Anil Kakodkar always quotes, nuclear energy is an inevitable option for the country. We are now trying to increase this by a factor which has been illustrated by our Prime Minister. The Honorable Prime Minister mentioned that India has accelerated India's civil nuclear program. Mark the words, accelerated the rate of movement, growing that civil nuclear power, that is where we produce the electricity for us. That program has received an added impetus thanks to Prime Minister's large-scale, long-term vision on the energy scenario for the country. And this has been quantified in numbers. We have 100 gigawatts of nuclear power capacity planned for 2047. We have milestones to reach, but this is under an accelerated. And this will be the gravitating force for our younger generation look up to a greater and a glorious nuclear career. So from words to action, our progress has been retarded or slightly delayed because we had been under the contours of the 1962 Atomic Energy Act, which concentrates all the atomic energy nuclear activities within the Department of Atomic Energy. In fact, it was the sole repository of the entire nuclear repertoire of this country. But currently, we have the Shanti Act, which has come into operation, sustainable harnessing and advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India. That's called the Shanti Act. This has thrown wide open to the industrial sector. So we have the workhorse of Indian industry now rushing into the nuclear sector, and we look for an added bloom of nuclear sector in this country. That is the point of currently we are looking at that stage. This is a matter of great rejoice and professional satisfaction for the younger generation. The Atomic Energy Act being enriched with, I would say enriched with, because it has preserved all the good qualities of the Atomic Energy Act. And in addition to that, they enable the Indian industry to walk into this field so that we have the best of both. That's what so that from with the Shanti Act in operation, we are a sunrise industry. So you are witnessing that nuclear revolution in the country, where the sunrise industry is inviting you, is beckoning you with a career. Going back to the forefathers of this program, there has been a very famous statement, very often quoted by almost all academics, that 1945, Dr. Homi Bhabha said, when nuclear energy has been successfully applied for power production, say in a couple of decades from now, India will not have to look abroad for its experts, but will find them at ready at hand. We'll find them at ready at hand. That is what we have reached today. And in order to improve the quantity and quality of that readiness, more openings are made for the younger generation to get into the nuclear field, and the training and the educational opportunities are widely open. And it is not only the nuclear power generation field that is being spoken about. Immediately, Dr. Homi Bhabha died in 1966. When Dr. Sarabhai took over, he brought in a larger concept. Homi Bhabha was concentrating on nuclear power, and Sarabhai was mentioning it was nuclear-powered agro-industrial complex. In fact, put it in very succinctly, in metaphoric terms, what he said was, put uranium in the reactor, produce rice and food materials on the other side. That was the long supply chain, which he envisioned as far as nuclear power is concerned. It's not power alone. It is what can be produced powerfully for the people to consume. The entire spectrum was discussed, and we had the concept of nuclear-powered agro-industrial complex, throwing open a large areas and domains for employment throughout. And most prominent among them today is desalination technology, and nuclear desalination technology gives enormous opportunities for engineering field. For currently, the world is run more on this desalination technology. So it all started with this lady. She took uranium-235, beat a neutron, became barium krypton, 3 neutrons came. There is a chain reaction, and 3 neutrons will become 9 and will become 27, 81. The whole thing happens. That is the smallest reaction which happens. But controlling this reaction, that is what a nuclear reactor is. We have the split atom, and this is very important because we have been laboring under the erroneous illusion that the atoms cannot be split. Atom means atomos, uncuttable. So the uncuttable atom has been split. And by splitting that, the Einsteinian expression E is equal to mc square was realized. And that was an energy which coal cannot give, hydro cannot give, solar cannot give. So because it's E is equal to mc square, which is the velocity of light, which is the highest value, that is being squared. So there is no comparison between the amount of energy that can be obtained from the nuclear sector. An inexhaustible source of power is locked up in the heart of the atom. There's a theory behind it. Can I move to the next one? Now, at this crossword, we have come. Why nuclear? I told you a short while ago that nuclear is an inevitable option. We must have energy. No development, no energy. No energy means you can't move one step forward. And our climate is taking the impact of our present mode of generation of the carbon has left such an imprint, such a deep footprint by itself. So we need to change the way we produce. The climate is giving us a pinch on that. So our strategy has changed. From the coal, we are shifting to the nuclear so that the planet is not infernal. That's the beauty for it. So nuclear energy works quietly in the background, provides you stable. You can depend upon it. Clean. It's not dirty. It won't give you any pollutants. And it supports our national strategy of development and security, energy security. Nuclear remains the dependable framework on you can build your economy. So the nuclear economy is in the cup. But it needs an ecosystem where the education and training are the backbones of it. When you think about nuclear now, we think about the reactors. But beyond the reactors, there are several other fields open to us. Pure blue sky research. Nuclear means it's not fission alone. Nuclear also includes fusion, and fusion, making an artificial sun on the surface of this planet. That many species are engaged in that. That's the blue sky research available to us. In the field of medicine, agriculture, and several aspects of industry, this has already made deep inroads into it. Nuclear science today touches everyday life, very, very visible. So that is the ecosystem in which we are living, although we have not patently recognized this impact of nuclear on our body. So the primary academic doors which brings us into the nuclear field is physics and engineering. In between, we have interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, and transdisciplinary subjects which make the nuclear physics. There is no single door through which, okay, I will go through this door and I'll become a nuclear scientist. There are several doors available, and even after going through one door, you can go out through several other doors after acquiring the necessary qualifications and the skill set for delivering the goods and services. What you need is deep understanding and not the job labels which we are given over here. So that's the pathway. That's a very special pathway available in the nuclear field. So if you are more tuned to the basic mindset that, okay, I will push forward the frontiers of knowledge, and you want to do fundamental research, basic research, elementary research, then there is a research sector for it. Then there are people who would be interested in applied research, directed research, and research which produces solves the problems of the industry. So that you have the industrial public sector undertaking. And there are other institutes in the country where your nuclear knowledge will be applied. For example, in the case of radiopharmaceuticals, in the case of nuclear agriculture, there are several other openings also available. So the system we must understand in the nuclear field is structured in such a way it's a merit-driven system. It's meritocracy that is the mainstay of your nuclear legal. Now, the skills which we require as a nuclear science professional is this: we have a legacy which is deeply dissolved in the very blood that runs through the nuclear system, is called the Baba legacy. We should be absolutely clear about fundamentals, our fundamentals. That clarity is not negotiable at all. We should have an analytical bent of mind. That analysis involves a problem-solving mindset. If you have a problem and if you have only one solution, that's not good idea. If you have one problem, you should be able to come out with multiple solutions. And multiple solutions should be evaluated with the different solution scenarios that have to be created. And then you have to go through each solution and strike out your own product, your own creative productions, and select one. That's what we call murder your darlings. So that is the analytical frame of mind required in the nuclear field. Precision, accuracy, error freedom, very necessary. In fact, there is a story going around in the history of atomic energy archives when Dr. Baba was building the laboratories at the Atomic Research Center. He wanted two stacks of two nuclear establishments on a single straight line. When the line was drawn, it was found there was a difference of about 30 centimeters. No compromise. The structure was reconstructed so that the 30 centimeter difference, which is largely a cosmetic one, it's not structurally or functionally dependent, but that is the precision and accuracy which Dr. Baba wanted. And all through you will find this imprint of Dr. Baba in all the activities of the nuclear sector, even today. That's what we are proud of as the Baba leader. Now, yes, That's one aspect. This is an existential question. Okay, I learn all this. I have all the knowledge, wisdom, and everything. I have experience. What do I get in monetary terms? How do I monetize my knowledge? Because a knowledge economy is also a monetary economy. If your personal economic background has not taken a quantum leap forward, in fact, we would say a quantum leap forward, we will not be very happy with that. In fact, today, the best of my knowledge and belief, the compensation package which a nuclear scientist or a nuclear professional gets in the sector, in the country, is absolutely highly respectable. Yes, one starts normally with a salary of anywhere between 1.5 to 2 or 1 to 3 lakhs per month. That's what it looks like. Of course, specifics you'll have to consult depending on your entry, all those things. But in the global field, where the International Atomic Energy Agency also gives job requirements for its people, the average salary is about 6.5 liters. It's not the salary that is important. The perks coming with the salary, the social status you have, and the enormous log cycle difference you get over a period of 30 to 40 years in the career, you find enormous difference in that. So as far as the monetary package is concerned, nuclear is one of the most attractive golden mines. The benefits, all the standard good benefits which the government of India is giving, and which all national, because Department of Atomic Energy is normally at the highest level of the president of the prime minister level, and it is given absolute attention to, and you get all the benefits corresponding that, not only to you, but your family, and you have a healthcare system. Details can be had when you apply for this job. I told you in the beginning that nuclear is not a single solitary career. It's a multidisciplinary ecosystem, spans energy, medicine, research, and global politics. Now, if you are a physicist, generally, if you want a broad spectrum analysis of the profession, then you are a nuclear scientist, you can be a reactor physicist, specializing in different types of reactors, right from heavy water reactors, advanced heavy water reactors, smart reactors, small modular reactors. That's one profession you can have as a physicist. Physics and chemistry merges here. In fact, we call them physical sciences. Physics will have chemical physics, physical chemistry, chemistry and chemistry itself from radiochemistry, isotope chemistry, very large number of super subset specializations there. And we have cross-disciplinary ones called the health physicists. Now that means the entire health sciences are seen from the perspective of of course, today we are speaking about nanotechnology and the new materials. Nuclear materials are new, and we are thinking of new alloys which can do better configurations and higher functions. So we have nuclear material science has become a specialty by itself. The fuel elements of uranium, plutonium, and thorium, they have to be configured in very different ways. Batting materials are done. So there are enormous super subspecialties coming into that. That's what we call nuclear material scientists. Then we move from the scientist position to the next one. Yes, we come to the engineering roles. In fact, a scientist with an engineering mindset is the minimum required for a good nuclear engineer. You should know all the why, and also you should know the how of the nuclear engineering profession. We have reactor design engineers, we have reactor operation engineers, we have mechanical engineers in thermal hydraulics, control instrumentation, then, and probably the most important one from the engineering point of view is the safety systems engineer. That's a deep profession by itself. On the operational side, you can become a reactor operator, a plant engineer, a maintenance engineer, and a fuel cycle specialist, which is peculiar to the nuclear field. Now you may wonder, from nuclear, we look at it, you find that another major sector has been impacted, the medical sector and the radiopharma sector. You have nuclear medicine specialists, physicians, radiopharmacists, medical physicists, because we look after the health and safety of the nuclear medicine people. Then we have radiochemists and the modern technology, sophisticated technology of astronomy, tomography, and spec technologies. Each one becomes a specialty, giving you enormous professional growth within that small subject. Of paramount importance is safety and regulation. So we have the new breed of people called the radiation safety officers, nuclear regulatory officers, and we care the most for our environment. In fact, the finest of an environment is always found to be a nuclear reactor, that is environmental radiation specialist. And there are emerging roles. which are just in the pipeline coming up. Theranostics specialists using radioisotopes for diagnosing as well as for treatment. So the coupling of diagnosis and treatment into one factor, that's where the next 3 to 5 years you will find enormous development in there. And data analysis, nuclear field is the most fertile field for data analysis. We have a lot of historical data that has to be converted into operational data. So data mining, data refining, data analytics, and the application of the term to artificial intelligence will be of great value to this problem. And as I told you, fusion research scientists, we are calling it fusion research, not physicists or chemists. That also, in fact, that's the one which is now emerging. All of you would have heard SMR, that is small modular reactors. That is the dream of the nuclear field. And you find this developed in many places, and with the Shanti Act released already, we are waiting with great expectations to the arrival of the SMRs into our nuclear prize. If you want to put the nuclear facilities available and the nuclear job potential and the nuclear professional space available to you, you will find this cross-disciplinary concept. In nuclear science, spending up to understanding the subject. That's what nuclear science will tell you. Then nuclear engineering, from understanding, you will go into building. And in the field like nuclear medicine, you will become healing, producing the health effects. And in nuclear regulation, you will protect the personally involved as well as the property that is produced in this. All these things will be done under nuclear policy. So policy specialists at the international level and at the national level and the United Nations as well as International Atomic Agency, there will be a new breed of nuclear policy specialists. So the future, yes, the future is bright, colorfully black. We have the SMRs, small modular reactors, we have fusion coming around, and we have nuclear medicine beckoning on us. The field is evolving, and these three factors I mentioned is launching the nuclear job sector into an expanding horizon. Look forward to a greater future, a greater nuclear future, not only for the country, not only for the globe, but for ourselves. And not only for ourselves in the beginning. Within about 4 to 5 years, you get a long cycle of self-development in this. So a full career devoted to this is awaiting you if you prepare yourself and make yourself a nuclear fit into the nuclear scenario that is emerging in this country. Can we move to the next slide? Ultimately, we are the global citizens. Yes, nuclear science is global. There is nothing regional, or it is excellence of the global that is being brought to the local. That's how it becomes the standard, the safety, and the knowledge are shared across the country. So your work, your job connects you not only with your immediate network, but and internationally. So you become a true global enlightened citizen by following the nuclear career. So I have spent 40 years in the nuclear field, as I told you a short while ago, in several domains, and I am pro-nuclear. I retired as the head of the media relations, the first post created for interacting with the community. And if I am given an option to start a second career, I would follow the nuclear field only because that gives you immense benefits professionally, academically, and as a holistic career in life. When you are preparing for this, prepare well, put in the best of it, be good at your science. Always keep an engineering mindset because you should be able to deliver the goods in safety and in security. I wish all my young aspirants a brilliant and bright career in the nuclear horizon. Thank you.
It was such an amazing session, sir. It was really, really great to hear you. And like there are so many things which even we do not know, like me, Sagar, even we don't know those things. So it was really great session. Like it was really great to hear you. And Sagar, if you want to ask questions.
I'm happy I'm useful to the new generation. Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
there were a lot of job aspects which I did not personally know. So
Exactly.
we have new topics now that we can make full videos on, where we can tell students how to enter nuclear sciences from so and so field wherever you are doing your bachelor's or master's.
Sir, I actually wanted to know about Homi Jahangir Baba sir's three-stage nuclear power plant program. I was very fascinated about it when I first searched about it in YouTube. I got some videos, but I didn't understand it very clearly. So I want to know it from you. I'll be very glad if you tell it.
Of course, this is a long story. I'll make it as short as possible. The Indian nuclear program is based on that three-stage program which Dr. Homi Bhabha envisaged in those days. That was a national rational policy devised by him. Probably cannot be matched by any other nuclear engineering mindset. What Dr. Bhabha thought was India doesn't have huge quantity of uranium. Building a nuclear program based on uranium will have its own resource restraints. Therefore, he had a three-stage program in which the first stage will be uranium, the second stage will be plutonium, and the third stage will be thorium. Now, conversion of uranium into plutonium and into thorium, there are several mechanisms available. So I shall not go into the reactor engineering portion of it. Suffice it to say, as a primary one, it is the first stage based on uranium, second stage based on plutonium, and the third stage based on thorium. And it is the third stage which is the most important one because India has got the largest reserves of thorium. Almost 850,000 tons of thorium are in the beachlands of Orissa and Kerala. But that thorium is called a fertile material, not a fissile material. What we need for a nuclear reactor is fuel, which should be a fissile material. So converting the fertile uranium to thorium-232 into uranium-233 is the nuclear magic which he wanted to do. That's what the fast breeder test reactor has recently accomplished. That's another the fact in the nuclear science. So when thorium-232 is irradiated in a nuclear reactor, it absorbs a neutron, becomes thorium-233. It beta decays and becomes uranium-233. In physics terms, in the textbook, it's very simple. But in engineering terms and scale up situation, and to get enough fuel for that, we take a lot of time for that. But we have cracked this today. And India is poised for using its own thorium for a larger scale so that we have a long life for our nuclear. Suffice it to remember that the three stages are based on uranium, plutonium, and thorium at the moment. We can have a detailed understanding of the processes of the three stages. Because each stage is a reactor engineering and reactor physics. Very different.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
I think your question is answered. Next, we have, I think, Yuvraj Sharma. Would you like to ask?
I am a first year BSMS student at ISA Berhampur, and my question was you talked about how physicists can become nuclear physicists, react, and so on. My question is, becoming a physicist, does it lock me out of becoming a nuclear engineer?
Yeah, that's a very brilliant question. In fact, this may be bothering you. The engineer is not a product coming from an engineering college. A physicist, in fact, the evolution of physics is into engineering. Physics knows things, but engineer does it. So the doing portion, the knowing portion is your physics, the doing portion is your engineering one. And if you're a nuclear physics person, your engineering will be very perfect because of the precision, the accuracy, and the safety aspects you are taking care of. So I would find that a good physicist becoming a good nuclear physicist will automatically become a good nuclear engineer or a reactor engineering to begin with. So have no doubts about it. You're absolutely qualified to become, and it's your choice. Deep domain knowledge, transmute that knowledge into deliverables, goods and services, reactor services. The whole world is yours.
Sir, I have one question. So, like you told about so many roles in the nuclear science, right? But like generally people know about BARC exam through which you can become a scientific officer. So how do one know about all these roles? Like where do these roles are available, and like how do people find it out? Like, in these institutes, how can one apply for these roles and all? Because people do not really know about these roles actually.
I would suggest you should visit the website of the Department of Atomic Energy. Department of Atomic Energy has establishments all over the country. From Atomic Minerals Division with the headquarters at Atomic Minerals Division on one side and the Indian Rare Earths down south. All through you will find a huge number at Institute of Fundamental Research. So the nuclear map of India will give you your geography with respect to the establishment. And each establishment puts out its advertisement for the entry of people required for them with the specific qualifications. And there are a large number of openings. Architects, we need administrative people. In fact, we need management people for this. So the openings are site specific and establishment specific. And since it's a governmental activity, all the details will be available in the website of the Department of Atomic Energy and in all the national newspapers. You can see that. So there is absolute transparency in this. If you don't look, we don't find it. If you look, you will find it.
So students, please take note of these things. Like most of you think that there are no opportunities available. So there are opportunities available, all right?
I think we also have one question. Maybe we can take one last question, then I have some questions. Anjali, would you like to ask a question?
So I wanted to ask, as a fourth year BSc student, BS honors I am doing right now, and I want to do my fourth year thesis with any of the nuclear facility in India. So is it possible if I spend a semester or a year of research at any institution available for my research purposes?
I would suggest that you look into the opportunities available with the Homi Bhabha National Institute, which is a university. All the openings will be found there. And be in touch with that institution for this. Instead of writing to individual institutions, be in touch with HBNI. That will clarify the situation.
And if I may add to that, HBNI would include NISER and CBS, etc. kind of institutes. So you may look up their profiles of professors there and directly email them. They also have their own separate summer internship, winter internship programs. So you can look those up also. Sufficient enough. If you're doing thesis can be 6 months to 8 months depending on your need. So you will have to write that email accordingly.
Also, sir, like there is one very famous question among the students, like, about the BARC. Like people can give BARC written exam, but about the interview, they do not have any knowledge. So if you have any suggestions for them, like how they should prepare for their interviews and what kind of interviews are there. So anything about that?
Be a good student. Learn nuclear physics very well. Read all the standard textbooks on nuclear physics and reactor engineering. And keep in touch with the International Atomic Energy Agency, what they are saying. So be nuclear minded.
Yes.
Keep yourself and become absolutely. See, today is the information explosion. So what you should look is nuclear information explosion. Condense it, keep it with you, ready again. And we are valued not for the information we carry. It is not the burden of information which we have. No, it is our ability to process information is given to us. I am given 2 pieces of information. I should be able to process it and come out with what they want. So that analytical skill of understanding and that processing skill, that is what the scientific bent of mind is. So if you have that scientific attitude of analytical thinking and a creative thinking and a synthetic thinking, so those mindsets will help you to tide over any question. Let them give you information, not a stockist of information. We are not hawkers and peddlers of information. They are processors and producers and deliverers of knowledge based on information. So there's an old saying, where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? Where is information we have lost in data? I won't carry data with me. Data will come to me. I'll process the information and I'll make the knowledge out of that. And then you have to apply your wisdom and deliver it to them. So that is a hierarchy, the epistemological hierarchy of knowledge. And if you are thorough on that or a subject, the world is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this.
I have a question. So I did my master's in studying exotic nuclei. I went to GSI in Germany. They have a particle accelerator facility, and I studied exotic nuclei there, which are, nuclei which are very unstable, close to the proton drip line, neutron drip line, etc. So I studied their half-life cross-section values, and we discovered 2 isotopes, so bromine 69 and rubidium 73 during my master's. My question is related to a little bit particle physics, nuclear physics intersection. So, in India, we already have research facilities which study, nuclear reactors and nuclear engineering, such as BARC, etc. But do you have an opinion on the upcoming need of studying fundamental physics and such as particle physics or even nuclear physics experimentally and theoretically both, but using particle accelerators? Because you have worked with reactors, etc. for a long time. But what is your opinion on studying them using particle accelerators?
My purely personal opinion, because I do not have access to classified information, high energy particle physics still remain centered to select places, because the energy you require, quartz particles can be created only in certain places. So the investment required for that blue sky research It will be a global phenomenon for the time being. So CERN will continue to be the holy place for particle physics for some time. But national policies of cyclotrons and particle accelerators required for our industry, for our requirement, for example, cyclotron, medical cyclotrons, all these things will be available here. But at that route, where your medium isotopes of short half-life have to be conducted, that is still in the bluest of the blue research, and it will remain in very selected single-digit centers. Every nation may not be able. So my own feeling is the best of the brains can go there, learn it, and come back to the country and bring all the knowledge back.
Yes, that is the idea. I also plan to do the same.
Please do that. I'm very happy to share the wonderful work you have done in that, particularly with respect to very, very short-lived rubidium isotopes. That's
Yes,
great
yes.
work. But I think your mind would have opened up to a large horizon now. So
Very much so, very much.
to truly become a global citizen, not only in physical form, but in mental form.
Okay, so this last question is a bit informal and should be motivational, I hope. What is the most important piece of advice or learning that was given to you by your colleagues or mentors when you were very young and starting in this field of research?
One, I have found my mentors working very hard. In our times, they were in the library. But I have also found there is a balanced equation. 4 hours in the library, 4 hours in the laboratory. This knowing and doing balance. In fact, I have my friends who know everything. They won't do anything. And I have also friends who do many things in the lab without exactly not knowing what they are doing. So I feel the balance between knowing and doing based on knowing. And whatever you do, you should be able to improve your knowledge. This cycle of A and D is the one which inspired me. And I always spend equal amount of time both in the lab and in the library. So thinking and doing. You can become great academicians by thinking alone. Then you have the most concentrated solution of information.
Yeah.
But when you translate into action in the laboratory, your knowledge is of a very different, qualitatively different kind. So I feel the lab is an absolutely great. In fact, you would have found in the accelerator, right? If you are not in the accelerator space,
Yes.
you have only information with you. So that's my feeling. And action.
One student has asked one question. So he asked that only BARC written exam or GATE is the way to go in BARC scientist.
The details of this, the OECD, you will get in the DE website because it is a fresh one. I think many of you may be writing the written exams for that. But please visit the website for specific information. Don't take it second-hand information from anybody.
There are a few more questions. Can a MSc Physics students do research in nuclear pharmacy in BARC? Again, similar career-related question.
That is institution-specific question. You have to find that. But nuclear physics, I think they had to work in which field? Interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary. So your basic understanding is your walking stick. You can walk into any area with that strong. If your walking stick is strong, you can get into any domain. In fact, in economics, we have found great economists. We have found great businessmen who are in nuclear physics. I have a friend of mine who did radioisotopes and he is now owning a medical cyclotron. So from nuclear physics to management to business enterprise. The choice is yours.
Okay, so there is one more question. So he asked that I'm a BTech CSE AIML first year student and I would like to know what are the opportunities for BTech students at BARC and what skills would be needed for each role available. So like, sir, are there any particular skills which you feel that, yes, you should have these skills before entering in any job role?
These policies are available only in the website and check very carefully what is the small print over there is very important. So it can be given only a specific advice at a specific point of time. Institution specific and time specific.
So rest of the questions, can we get a job in these roles in abroad?
I spoke about the International Atomic Energy Agency and whichever country has got a nuclear program and if you are qualified for that. And if you meet the other conditions of that country with respect to your travel, visa and all that, the civil nuclear field is open. And the International Atomic Energy Agency accepts people, and I give you an idea about the salary at the P3 level, coming to about 6 odd lakhs per month. Because this is in the health field, in the regulatory field, in the policy field.
So rest other questions are just about the website. So guys, please check websites of
Every
particular
information-
institutes.
And never trust any other information except the one which you see in the website.
Yes.
Departmental website is the ultimate and the only singular source of information.
So I guess that's it. If there are any other questions, you can just go and ask in our YouTube videos. You will get answer in the comment section for sure. And thank you so much for this webinar, sir. It was really great to listen to you. We got to learn so many things actually. Even we did not know it before. It was really great, and the students are also very happy. So many students have asked a few questions in the Q&A section. So to all, so like just one last advice to all the youngsters who are trying to pursue a career in nuclear physics or nuclear science actually.
I should say something in message.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah. Read your standard textbooks very well. Be familiar with the topic in all its complexity, and be strong in your numericals. The clarity of thought, your ability to communicate. These are very important. Clarity of thought and the ability to communicate very effectively without a technical jargon. That's very important. And I must congratulate SciAstra for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts with the new generation. So I'm very happy about it. And we will continue to meet on specific topics.
Yes.
Again.
Yes, sir. It was an honor for us to host you actually.
Thank you, Ritika. Thank you, Sagar, for giving me an insight into medium isotopes also. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. It was amazing.
Yes, sir.
With this discussion. So many things we discussed.
Yes, so thank you so much, everyone. We conclude the session here. And again, if you guys have any questions, go on SciAstra YouTube channel, SciAstra College YouTube channel, actually. Go and ask your questions, queries there. We will try to answer as much as possible. And we will try to bring more such sessions to you with sir and with some people as well. So stay tuned. All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Sagar.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, have a nice weekend, sir. Yeah, bye-bye.
Wonderful academic afternoon, evening. Yes, great. Thank you.